At Cambridge Trust, we believe that living well is about more than just managing your wealth. It's about staying intrigued, informed, and inspired. I'm Michael Duca, Executive Vice President at Cambridge Trust Company, and this is the Cambridge Trust Thought Series.
I'm Dave Gallo. I've got a PhD in oceanography, and for the last 30 years I've been working at ocean exploration and the development of new technologies to allow us to explore the ocean. I retired from my job at Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution last year, in fact, at the very end of last year, and took a job at Columbia University. I'm now Senior Advisor for Strategic Initiatives in the Climate and Life Center. So I've gone from exploring the oceans and trying to understand what's out there to understanding how the oceans impact our everyday lives. The headlines are that the oceans provide us with half the air we breathe, almost all the water we drink, and a good portion of the food we eat. And so when you think about that, the air we breathe, the food we eat, the water we drink, coming out of the oceans, and the truth is we've hardly explored the oceans of all. We've explored about 5 to 10% of what's out there. So we really rely our lives, our everyday lives, when you think about climate change and the like, is dependent upon this great body of water that we know very little about. One of the things that always amazed me is that humanity, there's 7 billion of us on this planet, and we're almost like a virus because we're so tiny compared to the planet. And yet we've managed, like a virus or a bacteria, we've managed to change the chemistry and the temperature of the Earth's oceans and atmosphere. And that's pretty amazing to me, that things that we think are good for our everyday lives, plastics for one, but also pharmaceuticals and herbicides, pesticides, fertilizer, all that stuff, flame retardants, eventually makes its way down the rivers and streams to the ocean, and it brings death to the sea in the form of dead zones and other things. So no matter where we live on the planet, whether it's in the heartland of North America or the coastline of the Northeast or the heartland of Africa, we have an impact on the ocean. We don't know how exactly we impact the natural rhythms of the Earth, and therein lies the problem. So if we don't understand our impact, we can't begin to predict what's coming next. As it is today, when you look at what's happened, extreme weather events like hurricanes, Katrina that took out New Orleans, or even recently Matthew that came up the East Coast, the fact that we don't know whether it's going to track out to sea or make landfall is really troublesome, because it means we don't understand the processes involved in that. So we can be caught unexpected with something that we're not expecting. And in the past, that's been enough to collapse the greatest civilizations on Earth. The Mayans, the Egyptians, the Harappa, the Akkadians, anyone that used to live along rivers, and they depended on the rivers for nutrients and food and fresh water, found that they couldn't count on the rivers anymore because the climate got a little bit unpredictable. It's not, again, that it was constant floods or constant droughts, just unpredictable, and that was enough to collapse the society. And so I think that it really behooves us to understand these phenomena better, and not to just think that it's a strange occurrence. It's just the oddball happening. But these things we should be getting used to, because it looks like the new norm. Bigger, stronger storms coming out of nowhere with very little warning. I think we have always had the idea that the Earth is so big and so that it would heal itself. And same thing with the oceans. And in actuality, there's not a lot of water on the Earth, very little. If the Earth was the size of a basketball, all the water on Earth would fit into a ping pong ball. Just because the Earth is covered by mostly ocean, the layer is very thin. And the fresh water is just 2%, 2 or 3% of that, so it's a little head of a pin. That's it for that whole basketball full of life. So, this notion that the Earth is huge and we can't affect it is misplaced. It's just not the right way to think about things. Let's look at it this way. The Earth is going to be fine. whether people live here. And some form of us, no matter how we goof this opportunity up, we will evolve, and there'll be some form of humanity that goes into the future. So I do worry a little bit that we need to get focused again on what a privilege this is, and really begin to enjoy it rather than take it for granted. We should be amazed at every starry night, or we should be amazed at every thunderstorm, every rainfall, but we're not. Again, we take it for granted, and that's the unfortunate part, I think, about life, is that we've gotten ourselves in this situation. But I'm very optimistic, I really am, because the answers are there. So now that we know the answers are there, if we choose to, if we have the right leadership and we choose to, we can figure this out. If we don't share what we see, the excitement of exploration and the importance of understanding the oceans, what's it all for? Is it all for just your own amusement? So I think it's incredibly important that we learn how to share our enthusiasm with the public at large. Because that's they are the masses that will be impacted by all this. My hope is that the people begin to understand the context of which we're living and start to appreciate what we do, that this incredible opportunity we have, that we learn to share. It sounds more religious, metaphysical in some ways, but we really need to be better people. We have to change our habits, and that's the tough part. Changing habits, not easy. It's really the recognition about how it all fits and works together. Because science is so compartmentalized that you have rocks and you have biology and geology and waves, physical oceanography and chemistry, and they're all separate. But when you put it all together and look at the planet as a whole, it's amazing. It's just amazing. It just really does work. If I could buy one, I would want it on my desk, a planet. It would be great. Because you can watch this whole thing evolve, and then you see how silly we act. But I think that, to me, is the most amazing thing. So it's the aha moment more than it is looking out the window of the sub. That's constantly fascinating. So every time you go, you find something incredibly new and exciting. But that's not enough. We need to understand. As we explore, we have to begin to understand. What does this mean to us? What does this mean to humanity? Because, as I said, I think the answers are all there. It's just a matter, like good detectives, to go out and find the clues that we need to understand how we live better on this planet.
Thank you for joining us for this presentation of the Cambridge Trust Thought Series. For more Thought Series events, podcasts, articles, and videos, please visit cambridgetrust.com.